Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. It's Sunday Night Live on Monday Night Live. It's international break. There's not much of it left. I'm joined by Ricky and Beth and Kev. How are we all doing?
Fine, absolutely fine.
All right. Considering I've been battered on Among Us.
Yeah. Beth's been murdered about 3 or 4 times tonight on Among Us if you were watching on Twitch. But people want you to play that, Ricky, but I think, I don't know.
I think we can get Ricky on that.
It'd be good for an hour. It's a computer game.
Oh, no.
Anyway, on to Manchester United. We've got lots to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but hold a thought on it. Manchester United have spent £1 billion since 2013. £1 billion. Have we got value for money? What is that value? Have we done enough? And how is Ed Woodward still in a job? Many would say, for many different reasons. But I want to start off about Paul Pogba. There's a question I'm going to ask everybody straight away. You can talk about what's been said in the press. You can talk about everything else. But one thing Fabrizio Romano said today is that Manchester United are desperate, effectively, to get Paul Pogba to sign a new contract. So I'm going to go out round all three of you. I'll start with you, Kev. If you're the boss of Manchester United right now and Paul Pogba and Mino Raiola come in and say, we're ready to sign a new contract, if you give us 350k a week, are you giving him a new contract?
Me personally, I'd have to look at it and think, does he actually deserve it? I mean, we're looking at somebody who can't even get in the Manchester United team on current form at this moment in time. Yeah, injuries and stuff, we can look at it. But what it'll come down to is the club will probably give him that money. But it's just to safeguard the club to make sure that they get as much back for him when they eventually sell him. That's all it will be a business protocol. That's all it would be. But if you're asking me, does he deserve it? I don't think he does.
Why do you think the club are looking to do it then? Because, I mean, I'm just checking now. I'm not sure if he's 28 yet, but if you give him a 3 or 4 year contract, I don't think there's going to be many clubs that are out there that are going to say, we want to, well, he's 27, he's 28 in March. So it's probably his last contract. If he signs it, he's going to probably stay at Manchester United for the rest of his career. Is that justifiable after the last 4 years?
No, but I mean, what kind of transfer fee do you think we could get for him? Or let's say pre-COVID, before all this kicked off, if Real Madrid were interested in and wanted him last summer, before this happened, do you think you'd have at least got your money back that you spent on him?
I think probably 70, 80 million, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think United would have took that, and they could have easily, reinvested that into the squad in a position that we're crying out for. I'm sure we'll get onto talking about Jack Grealish, but somebody of the likes of that, a standout performer, at Aston Villa, he's doing it for England, upcoming top English talent. We could have looked at, making a switch like that. It would have been very easy to do.
Ricky, if you are in charge of United and Pogba's ready to sign a 3 or 4 year contract, are you, as Ed Woodward, going to give that, or are you going to say maybe it's time to go?
I think Kev's made a great point there in that you'd have to consider it just so that you can still demand a decent fee for him. But he isn't commanding a place in the team. If you were literally talking on a football basis, I wouldn't be offering him anything like that. I've got to say something else as well about him. I've not seen him play as well for United in a long, long time to what he played for France the other night. Why does that happen? I don't get that. I really don't.
I mean, you've seen some of the comments that he's come out with. Do you think that is because he's just far happier and settled for France, or do you think it might be because his fitness levels are coming back on the international? I'm trying to think of reasons why.
Reasons, yeah. I really don't know. I mean, I watched him play for France. I can't remember how long ago now, and he played similarly to that. When he plays for United, to me, he gets caught in possession too often. I don't think he got caught in possession once the other night. Every time it come to him, popped it off. 1 touch, 2 touch. He looked. I'll tell you how impressed I was with him the other night. That I've often said, well, yeah, here's the perfect example. I'm always saying on here that we've got to use 2 out of Fred, Matic and McTominay. If Pogba was going to play like he played the other night, I'd include him in that 4. I'd be quite happy. But he never plays like that for United, and I really don't get it.
I think just quickly before we go to Beth on that, I mean, the thing I noticed about that is that he played in a deep position, which is There's many Man United fans say he can't play there, but he always plays there with France next to Kante. So, that this whole, well, a lot of people who love Pogba, and I love Pogba, but not to the extent as some people do. They're like, oh, he needs good players around him. We're playing him too deep. You've got to set him free. And like every time I've seen him play for France, they're not setting him free. He does a very disciplined role next to N'Golo Kante. So, I mean, he's a puzzle. It's a puzzle, isn't it?
Kante was going further. Well, he got a goal, didn't he? And he scored from about 4 yards out. Kante was going further forward than Pogba was most of the time. Most of the time. Oh.
Yeah, it does work. And Beth, you were saying just before we came on air about the comment. I mean, you can answer. Would you give him the contract? But also, you were talking about these comments as well and how they've been misconstrued.
Yeah, they have been misconstrued. Like, I've not got any agendas against anyone. I don't think Pogba's playing well, but it doesn't mean like everyone comes after him after whatever he says. What he said in the media to me this time round wasn't actually that bad. Like it wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad. And I think people are going after him for no reason there. But on whether I'd give him a new contract or not, I'd give him one purely so we can sell him, not so he's going to stay for the rest of his career. I don't think he wants to stay for the rest of his career, so I won't be worried about him giving him another contract and then him just be sitting on the bench for a few years, because I don't think that'll happen like by any means. But I saw him play for France. Can't remember when it was, but it was recently. I think it was the match before the one he played well in, and he didn't look very good in that one. But then when I watched him against Portugal, I literally said, if he can play like that, like he did against Portugal, I think he could sit in that 2 role with Fred. I actually think he could if he played like that, but he never does. When he was playing for France, he was getting the ball and giving it like literally straight away, passing it like very, very quickly. But then for United, he just tries to dribble around and gets caught in possession. I don't understand, but I hope it's just his fitness and he's finally starting to realise. I mean, that's what you want to think, because I want Pogba to be good for Manchester United. Like, I don't want him to fail, but if he can play like that, then I'd want him playing with Fred in that 2 holding position.
I'm sort of torn. I thought his comments were ill-advised to a certain extent, but he was misquoted even by Romano, who's a very good journalist. He was misquoted, and there's no doubting he's, like Ricky says, he's more settled with France. Obviously, I think that's because he's known a lot of these players all his life. It's his country, and the quality of player suits him better. We don't have a Kante. We don't even have a Matuidi. We don't have that sort of, or a Rabiot. We don't have those sort of players. They're, the quick across the ground, disciplined tacklers. And yeah, you mentioned Fred there, but Fred's nowhere near disciplined like Kante is. We have to play, like you call them, Mac Fred. McTominay and Fred do the same job that Kante would do on his own. And, I think that's where Pogba suffers, that if you put him next to Fred can't do it. Matic and Pogba are the closest we've ever had, and for some reason, Matic is out of favour at the moment. But it's an interesting one, Kev, because as we move on to next week, because we'll talk about what's to come, busy few weeks ahead. Solskjaer has got. He never seems to get, beats Everton, and then he just seems to inherit more and more problems. We're going to talk about Telles and Martial's problems in a minute, although they're not that big. But it's all about Pogba again. It's always about Pogba. And as we approach West Brom and then Istanbul, well, certainly West Brom, you'd be very surprised if Pogba starts in that game. And you'd be very surprised if McTominay and Fred had a bad game against them. And if they don't have a bad game, you'd expect them to play the next league game and the next league game. So it's not be easy for Pogba to find his way into the team in a system that Ricky said, the system doesn't suit him at the moment.
It doesn't suit him. But against West Brom, I think we spoke about in the last video when we were looking at this, as funny as it seems, I mean, West Brom, it has to be a must-win game. We all know that Ollie's job is on the line as United fans, and the majority of us on here want to see Ollie succeed. The worst thing we could have had was an international break straight after that Everton, that good win at Everton. We wanted another game straight after to go in, so this has kind of set us back slightly. But against West Brom, what I want to see is United now go for it. We've been disastrous at Old Trafford this season. What have we scored with? How many games have we won? It's just mind-boggling as to what is happening with United's current form at Old Trafford. You can blame it on fans, blame it on whatever you want. I don't know what route you want to go down, but every other Premier League team is in the same boat, and we have really struggled. But what I want to see is a bit of the old days. Let's go out against West Brom. Do we need to play 2 holding midfielders against West Brom? And I want to say no disrespect to West Brom, but come on, we're Man United, we're at home. We should be going out there with an attacking lineup, you know, looking to get an early lead and build on from that. And yeah, that's what I would say on the matter, especially, like I say, it's West Brom at home, for Christ's sake. We've got to go for it.
Just on that there, Ricky, and the fact that, you know, this is going to be a problem that Solskjaer, amongst many other problems, he's got some big demands on him over the next few weeks. I know it's very hard to predict, and I'm sure that's what you're going to say, but with regards to this, what do you sort of think is the right path for Solskjaer? Not what's going to happen, because we don't know what's going to happen, but what is the right path for Solskjaer to take at the moment? That team that he picked against Everton, it was a system team. It didn't have Matic in it, and it didn't have Pogba in it. Do you think it's right he just tries and gets that team out as much as he can? Or do you think it's right that he tries and gets a team similar to what he had before lockdown, with a sort of Matic, Pogba, Bruno midfield, getting his better players on the pitch? Because ultimately, I think what nobody wants is a halfway house where we're going Leipzig with a different team and PSG with a different team and Premier League with a different team. How do you think he's going to approach? How do you think he should approach it over the next few weeks?
Like you said, I don't know how he will approach it, but I 100% agree with you. He needs to settle on a team. He needs to settle on a formation, and then he needs to settle virtually on a settled 11. You don't mind the odd change, but not like which regularly 4 and 5 changes, and it's difficult for the players that are coming in, but it's also difficult for the players that keep the places. They're playing with new players, or you get used to players that you're playing alongside when you play regularly together, and you form relationships and little triangles as well between your right back and your right midfield and your right winger. They're all things that you can work on in training, but it's great when you work on them in a match. There's no better feeling than doing something in training with your mates, and then you do it on a football pitch and it comes off. It's absolutely brilliant, and that comes from consistency of playing together, and then consistency of performance can come out of that. So to answer your question, he needs to settle virtually on a settled team and only make the odd change here and there, maybe one change. That's what he should be doing. And we've got a good enough squad. I've heard enough about, like, 1 minute you're hearing that they're not match fit, then that next minute you're hearing that they're overplayed. I mean, come on, which is it? Do you know what I mean? So let's pick our favourite 11, maybe make one change each week at the most, and then if somebody does get injured or does get overtired, then you've got to make a change. You know what I mean? Make the change when you have to make a change, so long as it goes well. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I've got my favourite 11. You've got yours. We don't need to go down that path, but he needs to settle on what he thinks is his best 11 and stick with it. That's what he should do. And like I say, even from I know they were complaining they played on a Wednesday, then they played on a Saturday at 12:30. Look, if 6 or 7 of those players can play both of those games, play 10 players that played in both of those games. You know what I mean? What's the actual angle here? Is it the players that do play on a Wednesday at 8 o'clock? Sorry. And then he drops, I don't know, 5 people perhaps. Then he picks a team that's only got 7 or 6 players in it. So those 6 or 7 players, are they all superhuman or something? Are they okay to play? Do you know what I mean? Let's pick 10 players that played on Wednesday. Let's play them again and only make the one change. And let's get a bit of consistency between the players.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly agree with that. And I don't know what you think, Beth, but I don't really like the team he picked against Everton, but I almost feel that many United fans would sack him if they had the chance. And that means he's not that far away from the sack. And I just think for his own credibility now, pick your team. Like Ricky says, pick your team. You're never going to please everyone, because my team's very different to Ricky's, and I'm sure Kev's is very different to all of us. So I think Ollie now, is he not in that position where he's just got to pick his team? He's not going to please everyone. He's got to try and please himself, so that if he does get the sack or he does succeed, he can say, I did it my way. A bit of Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, I don't think the team that he picked against Everton was his best team. I think he picked it because he had to, and he needed to win, and that's the team that he thinks can win. I mean, Fred is very, very stable in that holding midfield, and they've got a really good record actually in the holding midfield role together. But the only thing that I think about them two, I like them playing together, and I think they did really well against Everton, is it isn't foreseeable to have both of them in their holding midfield forever, especially when you've got Pogba and Van der Beek. And I know you say about shoehorning players, but he can't go on with them two both on the bench every single week, like, because the more talented, we need to find a way to work around that. But I do think, I know you said that you don't think Fred can do the CDM role with Pogba next to him. Against Sevilla, we did quite well. We were unlucky by a defensive mistake with them in the team. And I think the thing with Fred and McTominay, we don't have someone who's very good at distributing the ball. And that's one thing Paul Pogba can do, to be fair. He's like the best at distributing the ball technically out of the team. So I think if he did play like that, where he just gives it quickly and Fred's there to sweep up, and we have to play with a pacey centre half. So Tuanzebe's got to start in for centre half for me if we're going to play that. With either Maguire or Lindelof, probably Maguire would be better based on the fact he's 80 million and he's a starter. Then I do think they can play together, but I don't think we'll see it against West Brom. And I don't think we're going to see Ollie's absolute team for a while now, because I think he's going to stick playing it safe to get the points up until he has like the availability to pick again what he thinks can work. So I don't think we'll see a proper starting 11 for ages. And I also just wanted to say that people in the comments keep saying, is Beth in the toilet? No, I'm not. I'm in my bedroom. It's just very, very bright. That's all.
She wants to be a dentist when she grows up. But no, I think you're right on that. I mean, there was a comment there just, Kev, about Cavani, and I want to bring it in because it sort of fits in with nicely with this. I was talking last night about Tellez, and everyone was in meltdown saying Brandon Williams is going to be back at left back. And I said, he's had COVID, he's tested negative. That's why he was training with United. He's gone to Brazil, it's South America, and United will just say, let's see what happens when you come back. So United actually put a statement out today saying, they're going to wait and see what happens when he comes back, and they'll test him, and if he's negative, he can play. Apparently, he's tested negative in South America now anyway, and he's going to play for Brazil tomorrow. So no worries about Tellez, and we need him with Luke Shaw out. But another player that people are clamouring for is Cavani. Now, there's talk of Martial having a bit of a bad back. I don't think he'll be out at the West Brom game. He might miss France's game, I think, tomorrow night. But are we at that? There are some United fans now saying, let's start Cavani. Do you think it's time to start him now he's fit up front, Kev?
I wouldn't personally. I think you have to look at the fact that he's not played prior to coming to Manchester United a full 90 minutes in about 7 months, is it? So, if I was a manager, I wouldn't be looking to start him. I think I'd keep up these cameo roles, bring him on if we're winning, or if we're looking to score a goal purely as an impact player. I don't think he's ready for 90 minutes at this moment in time. And to be honest, I think that the starting or the three that you could play up front, obviously Greenwood's got to come back in as well. I think we're a threat up front, and we proved that last season. Towards the end of the season, scoring goals wasn't a problem. It was just keeping them out the other end.
Yeah, you're a fan of Martial, Ricky. Cavani, where do you stand on him? Do you think he is close to knocking the door? I mean, Deschamps, I said it this morning, I don't know whether you saw Martial on Saturday night. He should have scored at least 2 out of the 3 chances. And I thought, Deschamps is a bit dodgy with him. He then came out and said afterwards, well, I'm disappointed he didn't score, but his hold-up play with his back to goal, his movement in the box, he was really impressed despite him not scoring.
Didier Deschamps is right in my camp. He can see the benefits of Anthony Martial. You can tell from the things he was saying. He's not making those things up. They're all the type of things that I'm always saying about him. And, he's matured. He's great on the ball. And, he's just a top player. So, the team plays better when he's in the team. And I think you're going to... And he's flying that way. And he's got to lean back and head it towards a goal. I think he did well to hit the bar, let alone, people are saying he should have scored it. I thought he did well to hit the bar with the header. It wasn't a bad effort. But the other 2 chances were a bit easier. He should have done better. But yeah, the manager can see it, and the manager actually said, if you read everything that he said, that he realised that what he actually said that one, it sounded like me actually. He actually said
with a French accent, yeah.
He said he actually
listen up, Fleck. You got to play with James. I sound Italian now. I'm not very good at French.
He actually said that once he looked back at it, he realised that the chances weren't as good as he thought they were, and that there was a fine dividing line between between scoring and not scoring there. I mean, the one where he shot where the keeper was right on top of him was the one that the keeper saved with his left foot. You know, when a keeper's a yard away from you, you've not got a lot to aim at, you know what I mean? So anyway, I thought he played all right, Marshall, the other night. And getting back to the point about Cavani, I take Kev's point about he might not be ready for 90 minutes, but I would suggest he's ready for a start. He doesn't have to play 90 minutes just because he starts. You know what I mean? Mm. So I would suggest he's ready for a start. He looks all right to me, and I think he's been starting for Uruguay. I know they've got a game against Brazil tomorrow. I read that he scored last week. They beat Colombia 3-0. I assume he started. So I think he's ready to start a game, mate. And if he is ready to start, I'd put Marshall on the left wing, and I'd give it. I mean, Rashford might have a shoulder injury. He's pulled out in England games, hasn't he? It might be the perfect opportunity for Ollie to put Marshall on the left wing and put Cavani at number 9.
If he is going to start Cavani, West Brom at Old Trafford, I can't think of many, other better fixtures to do that. Confidence-wise, he could come in and hit the ground running. Surely rough them up anyway.
I agree.
Well, somebody just said that, Beth. I mean, you've obviously christened them McFred. I mean, it's a very good name because they are one player. But they are two players doing one. They are two players doing one good person's job, and I won't disagree on that. But the point is, somebody did say, I think it was a super chat, that if you're playing McTominay and Fred at home to West Brom, that's a bit cowardly at Old Trafford because we know that's a protection for your centre backs. Well, we're playing West Brom; they're going to play deep. If you play a back four with McTominay and Fred, you're playing 6 defensive players. He's got to almost. I'd play Matic against West Brom and not play McTominay and Fred because then you could have Matic doing that job and then have 2 more attacking midfielders, whether it's Van der Beek and Pogba and Bruno or however he does it. But or you could get 2 up front in Cavani and Martial.
Yeah, I think like what Ricky said, I think he might start Martial on the left wing and Cavani up front because Rashford's not been to England with the shoulder at first. I was like, maybe Ollie's just like protecting him and exaggerating a bit so he gets a rest. I mean, that could be the case. But even so, I don't think Rashford, if he's got a bit of a niggle, will start. He might come on. So I do think it is plausible, especially after he scored, that Cavani will start. And I think he deserves to start, to be fair. He looked pretty good when he came on and he did score. So what more can you ask for? And I like Martial on the left wing, so I think that could be good as well. And yeah, with that comment, I do agree. If you are playing McFred, then you're taking attackers out of the game, especially against West Brom at home, when we should be on the front foot and we should be going to kill them off within the first half. Definitely, we should just be going to attack on that game. So yeah, I don't think he can play them and like drag it out, or else he'll just get absolutely slated, won't he? So I do think people just come back, shoehorning players. I do think that he can play Pogba and Fred in the pivot, and then even play Van der Beek on the right where Mata plays, or even play Mata. Like, it doesn't matter between them two. But surely now that we're getting injuries and people need resting and etc., surely Van der Beek's got to start. I mean, he's shown so much ability, and he's still not started apart from one game. Surely he has to start. And he came out in an interview and I thought he spoke really well about being patient and stuff. So I'd like to see him being given a go if that is on the right-hand side, because he's not going to get in Bruno's position. So that's the only place he can play him, really.
Here's a good point for you, Kev, to react to, because I'm sure the live comments it'll be new for them to react to. Manchester United bought 5 players, I think. Cavani, Van der Beek, Telles, Pellistri, and obviously the other lad who's come in, Ahmed, in January. So we don't count him. But out of the 4 players that we've bought, and we've played 7 Premier League games, the four signings haven't even played a game and a half combined in the Premier League.
That is crazy. But that does show the recruitment and where we're at with Manchester United at the minute. Honestly, banging my head against the wall every week. It seems we're talking about this, and I honestly don't know where to go. The Van der Beek one, I think, gets us all, because we've sat here week after week saying, what does this man have to do? What has he done? What has he done to not be included in the team? A bit like them old rumours about sort of Zaha when David Moyes was there. A lot of people were saying, why is Zaha not getting a chance at Manchester United? Just, never happened. But again, it's like Van der Beek now. It's like, has he upset someone? Has he said something wrong? You just can't quite put your finger on it. But when he come in on his debut, he scores, and then next game out the team. I don't know what else he has to do unless in training he's really, really shy.
His agent that might have pissed Ollie off, didn't it? Like when he first joined, he was like, something about Brighton should have beat him 7-2 and he still didn't get a start. It's a joke. Like his agent said something against Ollie. So it might be that, but I doubt he'd still be dragging it on for this long.
No, and in fairness, he's had a lot of support, even from the likes of Edwin van der Sar, Dutch internationals are even looking at it and saying they cannot believe how this man is not getting a game at Manchester United, because they all know he's top drawer, his quality. They've seen what he did for Ajax.
Scored for Netherlands as well, didn't he? That's right. Game played really well.
Yes.
So I think he's got to start, or else then it's literally just shows that Ollie just doesn't like him and doesn't want him in his first 11, doesn't see him as part of the future. I don't think if he doesn't start sooner or later, I'll get at least more minutes than what he's getting. Like even when he's a sub, Pogba's coming on before he is. You know that. And then if we're not winning, then he usually won't come on.
It's interesting actually, Ricky. I'll put that to you as well because there was a comment in the live comments there saying realistically then we didn't have a transfer window, like Kev said, because we know we did, and people have got different thoughts about Telles and Cavani and Van der Beek. I mean, Palestri, I don't think anyone expected that to be a first teamer, but Cavani, Van der Beek, Telles, 7 Premier League games. They've not even played a game and a half between them. All right, Cavani's come in a little bit late and Telles has had COVID. But Telles could have played games and he opted for Luke Shaw. Cavani could have played a little bit more than he has and he's stuck with what he's got. And Van der Beek could have played more games and he's stuck with what he's got. It almost makes that transfer window. I mean, I'm sure they will play more as weeks go on, but normally when you make signings in your first 7 games, you're turning a new leaf. And I don't know what it says about the transfer window. To me, it says they didn't get him what he wanted to get because he's not been in a rush to use him.
If you think about it, I mean, we must have said, I don't know how many times, I lost count how many times we said on this show, Mark, that it's about getting a stronger squad as well and having good backups. We must have said that a dozen times. So at least we have got that. In fact, it's that strong that Van der Beek still can't get on the park as a sub, like Beth just said. But yeah, we have got a much stronger squad. If Bruno was to get injured tomorrow, for example, in the Portuguese game, we've got a really good backup player for him now. Do you know what I mean? So it's about strengthening the squad as well. It's not just about strengthening the starting 11. And let's be honest about it. We were screaming for squad strengthening, weren't we, before it all happened?
Yeah, and it kicks in on Saturday because Luke Shaw, as much as I think some of us like him, and I think he's been really good. And I think Telles is going to be under the microscope. Maybe not West Brom, but in the future, I think Luke Shaw. I mean, it's just a pain in the backside because he actually has had 2 assists in his last 2 games, which is the thing we'd all admit he misses. But defensively, I think he's been our best defender this season. But this is why we bought Telles. This is why we bought him. So he's got the opportunity and we'll see. Just quickly before we move on, I'll start with you on this one, Ricky. Grealish having a very good season. I thought he played well for England last night. Didn't score or get an assist, but he looked good. Some United fans are saying, we should have bought Grealish in the summer. If you had £80 million and that was your budget next year, and Mr. Woodward says, you can spend it all on Grealish. Would you spend £80 million on Jack Grealish?
No, that's a great question. He was absolutely fantastic last night, and I've watched him a couple of times for Villa recently, and he's been brilliant. And I'm always one for not just talking about a given player, but looking at the type of formation that you want to play and where that player fits into that formation, and whether you need that player, especially at that sort of money. He looked an absolutely fantastic player, but I wouldn't just splash £80 million on him without thinking about where I was going to play him. I mean, I like 4-2-4, and I like the 2 solid midfield players who keep it simple. Watching him last night, I think Grealish should make a good proper wide left, proper midfield player, like a left winger really. But whether that suit him, I like my players to be happy as well. Whether he'd like being played on the left wing as opposed to a bit more in field, that'd be an important question. So Just at the drop of an hat, no, I wouldn't spend £80 million on him. But if I could sign him, yeah, he looks absolutely fine. That little trick that he did when the ball came out of the box and he flicks it on with his back of his heel and then nodded it forward a bit. It was just astonishing what he did playing against Belgium. That's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a fancy little piece of play that I'm sure everybody loved to see. But that's only the small part of it. His composure on the ball, his passing, he's playing with his head up, he sees people outside him, he looks at Kane, sometimes gives it to Kane's feet, but sometimes while he's looking at Kane, he slips somebody in down the left. I think he just looks a fantastic player. But you have got to think about, though, what formation you're going to play and where somebody fits.
Yeah, I think what's evident, Beth, is that he's definitely a player that, you know, probably looked like one of England's better players last night, and certainly should be playing at a higher level, with all due respect to Villa. The question is, he's under contract with Villa and they'll want good money for him, and we've spent a lot of money on Harry Maguire, and I think we all know, as much as Harry Maguire's a good player, he's not an £80 million player. Do you think, what sort of price do you think would be fair for Jack Grealish, and do you think it's a deal that United need to do now that other clubs are starting to look at him?
I think we should have bought him in the summer. That was a mistake not buying him then. I know Villa stayed up, so therefore his price tag was ridiculous, but he's starting to prove why his price tag was that. For me, I think Jack Grealish is one of the best English players I've seen in a long time coming through. And it's not even as if he's just come on the scene now. Anyone who knows football will know he's been great for a couple of years now, and now he's just getting the recognition that he deserves. I mean, he's got loads of qualities. He's a captain for Villa, therefore I swear Ollie was like, he wants a team full of captains. He's got the right mindset. His football IQ is great. When you see him play, he's always got his head up, like Ricky said, looking around. He can fake a pass. It's very rare that he makes a wrong decision. He draws a lot of fouls in instead of giving it away. He's got a great shot on him. He sees balls. He doesn't play the obvious pass. He can draw players in to create space. I think he's an amazing player, and I think 80 million's fair for him the way he's playing it at the moment. That's the price I do think he probably is right now. Whether, again, he's the position we need. He's not really, is he? We need a right wing, we need a CDM, and we need a centre half. Would we have the same problem with him as what we're having now with Van der Beek? That's the thing. But as Ricky said, I think he'd play great on the left wing, but that would then leave Rashford fighting with Martial and Cavani for places up front. But if we had the opportunity to get him, I would definitely get him. I rate him so much. I would hate to see him go to another top 6 club and us not to have him. That's the one thing that would really bug me.
Beth said there, and where, you know, his start to the season for Villa has been superb, and he's playing for England. He wouldn't be in an England shirt last night if he'd been at United, because we wouldn't start him. You know, Van der Beek's not starting. Where would he have started Grealish this season? It'd still be Bruno, it'd still be Rashford, it would still be Martial. And I think he's a very good player, and I would love to see him at Manchester United. But I actually think for his career, he's done the right thing staying at Villa, because he wouldn't have got. I can't see where he would have got the game time this year in this system.
Well, like Beth said, he's certainly. I don't think he's surprised me. The one thing with Grealish was, and the criticism of him, even from his own fans, always was end product. I mean, we think of a young Ronaldo, 18 years old at Man United. We always knew he was going to make it, but it was just getting that understanding that, you know, an easy pass, square it, you know, assisting somebody is just as good as scoring a goal itself. And once it all clicks into place, you know, Ronaldo never looked back from there. And I see the same now with Jack Grealish. There's comparisons that he's exactly like a young Paul Gascoigne, and you can see exactly why, because he's somebody who will take chances. I think it's also quite refreshing. There's footballers that have they have it coached out of them. It's very rarely that you see people coming along these days, you know, players willing to try a trick or something, because from an early age in academies, they're just coached left, right, don't give the ball away, possession, move upfield. So Jack Grealish is very much a one-off. It's very rare these days that you get players who are willing to, you know, take chances, sacrifices for the team. And would they have spent that money on him? Do you know what, Mark? I think I'd go against it. I wouldn't want to miss the boat on him.
Yeah, I agree.
If you could guarantee me that 60 to 80 million signs Jack Grealish in the summer, I would have done it. I would have brought him in there. And he strikes me as the kind of lad, a bit like Wayne Rooney, it doesn't matter where he plays on that pitch. You throw him a shirt and he's quite happy to go out there and play. He'll play left back, he'll play in goal. You know, he'd be quite happy just to play anywhere as long as he's playing football. I think he enjoys it that much, and that's a good thing about him as well.
I think as well with Grealish, I remember this time last year, people were talking about Maddison or Grealish. Well, where's Maddison now? But Kev's right. I mean, I remember Gascoigne, but he's right about he's not Gascoigne. He's nothing like Gascoigne. Gascoigne was an amazing talent and he blew it. But the reality is Grealish has a similarity because it is a dying breed and it does get trained out of you to do what he does. I watched him yesterday shoot over the bar. I watched it 3 times. And he literally just drops his shoulder to get a yard on Alderweireld, who is a Premier League class centre-back international. And it's like, you shouldn't be able to do that. But he does it, and he does it all the time. And it must be, as a defender, it must
very
be
natural.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you know what as well? I do think I think he would have started for us this season, maybe not straight away, but I definitely think he would have got more game time than Van de Beek, because I think it's quite clear that Ollie did really want him, whereas I don't think he ever really wanted Van de Beek. I think they've gone for him for a cheaper option because Villa ended up staying up, which again was, I'm not saying it's the wrong decision because I think Van de Beek's very talented and I think he'll have a good career here, but I do think again it's the whole money thing with the board. It's just so, it's really annoying because now you've got a thing where there's Sancho and there's Grealish and there's all these other players we want. Like, we can't go out and spend 300 million, can we? So you've got to cut your cloth accordingly.
It is an interesting one because on top of all these things, I'm pretty sure in saying he's the captain of Villa. And if he's not the captain of Villa, he's certainly the Bruno of Villa in the fact that he kept them up and he is the fire starter and he is the inspiration. And we need more characters like that at Manchester United. So we've probably missed the boat. And it feeds in nicely to what I'm going to put to Ricky now. And that is that, you know, we were talking about transfers. And I think it's very obvious that Solskjaer wanted Grealish and he didn't get him. He wanted Sancho and he didn't get him. And he wanted a centre-back and he didn't get him. It made a few people may have noticed this over the summer, or it might be news to you now, but since Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United, we've spent £1 billion in 7 years. That, to me, is, well, when I say that to you, Ricky, 1 billion, I mean, the mind starts boggling straight away. What comes to your mind when I say United have spent £1 billion in 7 years?
The turnover of managers obviously is what's caused us to spend that amount of money. If we'd have had one man, I'm not suggesting for 1 second we should have just kept David Moyes throughout, by the way, but if we'd have just had one manager through those 7 years, they probably wouldn't have given him £1 billion to spend. They still would have spent a lot of money. They might have spent half of that. But what tends to happen is one manager comes in and then goes, and when the next manager comes in, he wants some players that he likes, and all the managers really remind me of like being kids in a toffee shop. You know, every player that's gone through, not every player, but most of the players that's gone through the squad are pretty good players. You know, not many managers go and spend 20, 30, 40 million pounds on a player who's a complete duck egg. And sometimes the new managers, I think, look, I understand you wanted to put your own footprint on it. I understand you wanted to play to the format that you want to play. But for God's sake, grow up a little bit and make a player play a bit like you want him to play. I mean, I'll mention a player's name now that I know that you're always ridiculing, but even Marouane Fellaini, if I was running the team and I had Marouane Fellaini, I wouldn't be demanding, get rid of him and give me £50 million to spend. He's a thoroughly decent, solid, performing squad player at least, and when you do play him in midfield, he's decent. And I believe, look, he played plenty of games when we were finishing second and third in the league. What's the difference? Do you understand what I mean? What's the difference? And I'm just bringing up one player there. I mean, Van Gaal got rid of Daley Blind. Sorry, not Van Gaal. Mourinho got rid of Daley Blind. Van Gaal got rid of Johnny Evans. The number of players that they've got rid of, I think we could, if we'd have just kept all the players that we had 5 years ago and not signed anybody, we would still be where we are today. We won't be any worse off, I don't think.
Do you think there's any, when you look at that billion, I mean, $1 billion's a lot of money and it's still a lot of money in football. You know what I think? Where could we ever get this billion back? Like, if you spend £1 billion on a house, you think, well, I'm going to stay in that house. But if you sell it, it must be worth 1.2 billion now. Yeah. We haven't, the £1 billion we've got, I mean, most of the values from the youth setup that we didn't spend upon. I mean, where's it gone? That's the thing.
I mean, I take it that that's the amount of money we've spent on players, and it's not subtracting the amount of money that we've taken in from players, is it?
No, it's just the actual spend. I mean, the net spend will be lower, yeah.
Obviously, hopefully we've recouped at least half of that in sales. But that's the main thing for me is like a manager comes in, and I just think almost every manager should have a bit more about him and say, right, I'm going to get this squad of players playing the way I want them to play. I'm going to make the best. They're all decent players. Whether whether you don't like Fellaini or whether somebody doesn't like Juan Mata or they're all decent players and they're all good players. They're all of these players have all played in teams that have finished in the top 4, and that's all we're doing anyway. Do you know what I mean? What we're doing anyway.
Is the return, Beth, £1 billion? Is the return of a Carabao Cup and a Europa League and an FA Cup enough? And does it also point towards the people doing the deals as well? I mean, does this feed into why are the same people still in charge? Because it's the same people sacking and recruiting the managers, and it's the same people adding, spending the money as well.
We need a director of football, don't we? I mean, as like Ricky said, the turnover of managers hasn't helped. I mean, Mourinho came in, got rid of a lot of players, and then obviously Ollie didn't want the players that Mourinho had, a lot of them. So it does work like that with the high turnover of managers. But the board, I mean, it's clear that we don't really have football people involved because we overpay on players we shouldn't overpay on, and then players we should actually pay the money for, they go, "Nah, we don't do that," and then we miss the boat like we usually do, and it's just so annoying. Like, we could have had Haaland, the board so incompetent. Look at him now; he's worth about 100 million now, isn't he? And then Grealish is another one. I know his price was already high because Villa stayed up. Sancho, you could argue. There's so many players, and then Maguire, I don't have problems against him. Wasn't worth him, shouldn't have paid that, but then again we did. Alexis Sanchez, shouldn't have got him in. We did, got burnt, and now they're scared to pay money again. It's a shambles. It really is a shambles. The fact they've probably not bought Ollie, they've not bought Ollie this summer. One of his first choices, not one of them, because even Tellers, I don't think it was his first choice left back that he wanted in. It just shows that they're cutting. Even giving Cavani the number 7, I'm not mad about the Cavani signing. I wouldn't have minded it if it was along with a few other players and they weren't giving him the number 7 shirt. I mean, for them, it's all about cutting costs and saving and hoping they can get a better deal here and there. But by doing that, they shoot themselves in the foot because they'll probably end up paying over the odds for Grealish maybe next year because they feel like they can't miss out on it. They do it a lot, and you can just tell that the person at the top isn't competent. I mean, it's just, you can tell over the years that we've done signings. I mean, we're known as a joke in the transfer market. Like, we are renowned as a joke. I mean, look at Dortmund, 3-0 to Dortmund in transfers. It's embarrassing.
That's an interesting comment there that I don't know how true it is, but James Cooper is Sky saying that Man United will never have a director of football because the structure of our club has a bunch of people doing that, which we know, Kev. I'm just saying that when you dropped out, that Ricky was talking about, well, the spend is probably a lot to do with having 4 different managers who have to bring in their own types of players, but it is the same people doing these deals. It is the same people who are not doing the deals like Haaland and Sancho. And it is the same people who are sacking and recruiting these managers. I mean, what do you feel when you see £1 billion spent? And, look, the number 7 shirt, we bought Di Maria for 60 and sold him for 44 a year later. We spent 30 on Sanchez and gave him 400 grand a week. I mean, just on number 7s, we've probably spent, Memphis Depay was another one. We've probably spent about 150 million on 3 or 4 number 7s since the last 7 years. I mean, to me, what's your thoughts on that? $1 billion's a lot of money.
Well, it makes you sick, doesn't it? You think of everything that's going on in the world. A club like Manchester United, I know you can separate football from what's going on, but it's just so much money has been fluttered away when you look at it. And, are we any better off? Rick makes a great comment. Obviously, it's to do with managers. You're getting managers that are coming into Manchester United and they want to put their own stamp on it. But even back from David Moyes, he wasn't backed, even though I don't think he was a great choice to come in as manager. Mourinho still had battles with the Man United board. It's only recently that Louis van Gaal, for God's sake, come out and said that he wanted the likes of Thomas Muller and a load of other big names. And who did United get? We got Falcao, who was a massive gamble. Di Maria, who never wanted to come to us, but Ed Woodward must have thought, well, I've got a chance of signing him. This will look great on me. And I always go back to the point that I still think Paul Pogba was a Woodward signing, because Jose Mourinho never really got on with Paul Pogba. So I could never quite understand that one. I think it was the club that signed him.
It was.
But as far as the money that's been spent, a lot of people in the comments obviously saying a director of football is needed. We were promised this. This is well over a year ago now, that Manchester United would employ a director of football. A lot of people look at the setup at Ajax. Edwin van der Sar used to be at Manchester United, legend. Would he really come back to Man United? Listen, I know we're a massive club and that, but the setup at Ajax that he's got there, would he come over to United to work with the Glazers and Woodward? Exactly. Would he come over? I don't know. I honestly think he's a clever man, Van der Sar, and he'd probably think, as much as I love United, do I really go and want to work with them? Because you're not working off your top targets. I understand what you're saying about Haaland. Haaland's probably the only one that I'll give United. I'll look at and think, right, all right, fair enough, because the agent wanted this sell-on fee that he could leave within 2 seasons. So maybe United did walk away from that and think, we don't want to get involved with that one. But last season, the transfer window just gone, Sancho, right? What was our last bid that we bidded for him? Late 90s, 90-odd million. And Dortmund had made it clear from the start how much they wanted. And we're talking about, £10 million, which, is a lot of money to us. But in football terms, a player with a resale value, he's early 20s. He's only going to get better and better. And we couldn't get that one over the line. And we end up with, no disrespect to Cavani and that, but that's the way the transfer window has gone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, when you go back to Moyes, I agree. And I know a couple of you have mentioned Moyes. Never wanted him. Even when we were rumoured to get him, I was begging it wasn't going to happen. I knew it was going to be a mistake, but he didn't get backed. He did want, I think, Fabregas and Bale and Kroos were mentioned. But forgetting Moyes for a minute and thinking that was Woodward's first summer taken over from Gill. Some of you in the chat will be quite young. I mean, probably bloody hell, Beth, in 2013, you'd have been quite young. You might not remember yourself, but we bought Fellaini right at the end of the transfer window. He signed some sort of contract with Everton. He was available for 20 million. We didn't sign him. And then 3 weeks later, we signed him for 29 million. It was like, it's been going on for 7 years. The embarrassment. I think some fans think, it's just a one-off. It's every bloody year. We're absolutely shambolic. And I don't know how they're in a job, but I don't know whether we will get a director of football. I really don't. I mean, you said that, Beth. We do need a director of football, but it just doesn't. I just don't think this is going to get any better. And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's got a bloody hard job.
Do you know what? The only thing we've got going for us is our youth setup, because that seems pretty good, to be fair. That's where a lot of our talent's coming from. And you look at Garner, Galbraith, and the people, even that Elanga and that, is he called Hannibal? In the youth, they do look really good, and some of them look like they're ready to maybe start coming through, which is good. And we've bought that Diallo and Palestri. They're still young, but I saw something that Diallo put on his Instagram today, and he looked pretty good, to be fair. I know it's not Premier League level yet, but it's exciting to see that we are buying young players. But then Sancho was a young player, and I know he's expensive, but we didn't go in there. It's just strange, and it's like even the board, it's like upsetting players as well. Like Sancho thought he was going to come. Everyone knows that. Rashford thought that Sancho was going to come, and by letting him down like that, it gives us a bad reputation. And then if we try and go back in for him, he's already like a bridge is already burnt. You just don't know, and we've burnt any bridge that we had left with Dortmund that summer as well. So they're making it harder for us in the future to do business. It's just, we need a director of football ASAP, because I generally do think that Woodward and is he called Matt Judge or something? I think they're like a laughing stock in the transfer market. Someone was saying that apparently he turns his phone off at night and you can't even contact him during the transfer window. It's literally embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
They do have a really bad reputation, Ricky. And the thing is, I mean, again, I'm asking you to comment on something, but if you are Ed Woodward and I'm Matt Judge and I'm on the phone to you and I'm saying, Ricky, we can't keep playing Mata every week. We're getting pelters here. We've spent all summer on a nice holiday to Dortmund and we've messed that up. We're an absolute joke. We're terrible at our job. You know what we need to do? We need to get someone in like that Van der Sar, and then we can take the credit. I mean, why do you think I mean, look, Ed Woodward's the guy with all the power at United. All the rumours you hear, he runs that football club. And he's very involved in everything. Very involved. Why, if you're so bad at a job, and you know, why would you not? What do you think it is that just won't allow them to bring a director of football in? And do you think it's because they'll expose them? But surely I don't think it exposes them. I think they'll probably get the credit for United doing better.
Oh, really?
Are they, like you say, are they frightened of being exposed? I don't know. Really don't know. Maybe they don't realise they are doing a bad job. Maybe they think they made the right decisions.
That's the scary answer of the lot, isn't it? That they probably do not know that they're doing such a bad job, and they probably think they're doing a good job.
It could easily be the case.
That actually you just reminded me there. I'll ask all three of you this. We'll start with you on Ricky. He came out, I think, at the end of last week, and he did this a year ago as well. He said a year ago, we're backing Ollie for the future. It's a long-term plan. He basically said the same thing last week. And two things that I thought about that. I don't know what you think. One, this is the same comment of a year ago, and we're in the same position, basically. So where is this long-term plan? And two, it's that sort of assured way in which he comes out and says, we're backing him. There's never any self-reflection that actually you might be the reason he's in trouble.
Yeah. It could be the reason, but I'm not so sure. Ollie's, look, we don't know for absolute certain which signings they're down to the club and which signings Ollie's pushed for. But if I was, let's just say I didn't know so much about football and I was in a job that they're in, Woodward and Judge, and Ollie was the manager, and he'd been the one. Look, I'm not saying these are bad players. They're both doing all right now. But £80 million on Maguire, £50 million on Wan-Bissaka. Look, I'm not knocking them. They're doing fine. They're doing absolutely fine, both of them. But it's too much money. And if I was in charge of a manager that was recommending that I was going to go and spend £80 million on another player, I'd have to have a good, hard think about it. And if you don't know much about football, it's difficult to do because I can watch a game and I can look at a player and think what I think of it. But what's the point of Ed Woodward watching a game and thinking what he thinks of him? Do you understand what I mean? He's a rugby man, isn't he, Ed Woodward?
He's not a football man.
You know what I mean? So
I think he's a United fan, is he, really?
No point in himself, but whose recommendation does he take? Do you know what I mean?
I'd love to get Ed Woodward on the show, actually, and say, who was Manchester United's number 7 in the 80s who came from up north? He'd probably go Ian Rush.
If you ever get him on the show, Mark, give me a shout because I would definitely be interested in having a word with him.
Yeah, I just genuinely think, and look, people say he's a good businessman. Well, I think we give him too much credit. Why is he a good businessman then? We're in debt. We're crap at signings. We're crap at selling players. I mean, I don't. But I think he thinks he's a good businessman. But yeah.
I'll tell you a scary thing there. There's a clip of Ed Woodward, and he's asked about Manchester United's youth academy, and he's actually quoted. It's a video, not a misquote. He's actually quoted as saying that the youth academy is there basically for financial gain. It sets the club up in the long run, and he mentions financial gain. And you think this is a club, the Busby Babes, Fergie's fledglings, all that, and then you've got that absolute tool coming out of a comment like that.
I've never heard him say it, but I have heard that a few times in the last few months, where all this money we've spent on the youth is actually about that money turning into bigger money further down the road, which is not what any United fan would want.
Yeah. That's what I read into it. I look at it as a conveyor belt of bringing through top new talent to sell on. at a profit.
Can I just say, I don't think it's necessarily just about bringing players through. What I think it's about is bringing players through. Hopefully, some of whom are going to be good enough to play for United.
So you don't have to buy.
95% of them are not going to be good enough to play for United, and I've not got a problem with those. I mean, some of that 95%, more than half of them, won't even have a sell-on value. It's like throwing stuff at a wall, isn't it? Pardon the pun. Some of it'll stick, you know what I mean? So if they bring enough players through, some of them won't even have a career in the game. Some of them might end up playing non-league or whatever. But there's going to be some that's going to fetch a transfer fee. And by doing that, that's going to fund the youth system. It's going to fund it all. And then hopefully, at the same time, you know, even if you could get one every year or one every 2 years even coming through, who has a great career with United in the first team, and it's been paid for by the players that you've managed to sell here and there for a couple of £1 million along the way. I don't think it's entirely about just making money. It's about funding the actual youth system.
The only thing about
look at Ed Woodward, haven't you? And that's exactly why we've all agreed that he's a money man. He's not a football man. He's a businessman. Whether he's good at it or not is another thing.
Yeah, the only thing about Woodward that is the only thing is that I do think, like, obviously it's a dream that would happen. I do think the Ronaldo deal is something that he would want to do. I do think that is the route he'd want to go down. Someone older, he'll pay big wages, he gets the shirt sales in. That is something that he would want to do. And I'd
ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, you started it, Beth. Would you bring Ronaldo back next summer at 36?
Any day of the week. Anyone who says that 36, he's past it, I'm sorry, but I don't think they know football very well. Ronaldo, I saw him play for Portugal. Even though he didn't score, he just looked different class, didn't he? He looked amazing. And he's when he went to Juve, on his medical, they said that he had the physical capabilities of a 20-year-old player. He looks after himself so much. Like, it's not 36 to him. I think he'll play until he's 40, me. And if you could even get a year, 2 years out of Ronaldo, any day of the week, I'd have him back at United. And he's a leader as well. And he'll do anything to win the game. And that's what we need, the mentality as well.
Ricky? Not quite as enthusiastically as Beth would, but...
you can't say no to Ronaldo.
Yeah, You'd have to say, yeah, but there's other things, you know, you've got to take into consideration. I did read one thing that he's on more than £500,000 a week at Juventus. So there are things to take into consideration, whether if it had to be that type of money and we had to fund that ourselves, whether they, you know, are supposed, the top businessmen that we've just been talking about, if they think they can get half of that wages back in shirt sales just because they got Ronaldo on the back of them, then obviously it's a snip. You know what I mean? So
I think you would as well. I think Juventus made bloody loads off him when he first went there.
You might even recoup all his wages because you've literally got Ronaldo playing for your team. So if that was the case, you'd have to bite their hand off. Yeah.
Kev, you'd bring him back, would you?
Oh, I would. Purely, I just, you can't rule your heart out this one. He's the best player, Man United player I've ever seen in the flesh. I was there at his debut against, was it Bolton, when he come on as a substitute, and me and my mate basically went out on the beer after that, just on the strength of how good he was. We couldn't believe what we'd seen.
But I heard you did that after Jemba as well.
And Fellaini, yeah.
Any excuse.
I've had some great nights out. But no, Ronaldo was, I just remember, it was just an absolute joy to see him breaking, as an 18-year-old, heard that he'd signed for 12 million, didn't really know much about him apart from the fact that the likes of O'Shea and that had played against him in a pre-season friendly and said, you have to sign him. So to see him come in from, 18 and just flourish, and then, yes, I was devastated when he left, but you understood, didn't you? We all respected Ronaldo. Then again, he flirted with the idea of Madrid a few times, and a lot of people call me out for, slagging Pogba off. Let's not forget Ronaldo as well once said he was a slave to football, didn't he?
But he performed every week, though, didn't he? That's
the thing. Yes, I'm not, like I say, I was there in Moscow, just so many fantastic memories. Just to see him put on that shirt again and walk out Old Trafford, it's just like the final chapter of the Ronaldo book. I'd be like, yeah, this is it. This is This is where it ends now.
Especially if Messi goes to City, which is likely.
Well, that would be interesting.
I think Ronaldo would run and swim here if that happened. If we wanted to do a deal, and that's the thing, you know, there's talk that he wanted to come back after Real Madrid, but United never went in. But Mourinho was the manager then, and obviously we know. But no, that's a good point as well. A lot of people do say, well, why do people get on Pogba's back and they didn't get on Rooney or Ronaldo's back? And old enough as we are, some of us, to remember that. Nobody was very happy with what Ronaldo said. Nobody was happy with what Rooney said, but I think the difference was that those two players, certainly up until that time, whether they were unhappy or not, when they put that United shirt on, they played for that United shirt and they played very, very well. And that's why, you know, it wasn't liked. Rooney really wasn't liked when he did that. You know, Ferguson came on and did an interview and looked broken. But I think it was just because Rooney delivered in the shirt, it made it hurt even more. But one thing I do want to do before we end the show, because we're going into a load of games now. I'm trying to figure out how many Premier League games there are before Christmas. Probably maybe 6. We're currently I don't even know where we are in the league. I'm just going to quickly go around and ask everybody who will be the manager on Boxing Day's fixture and where we will be in the league. Just as a prediction, I'm going to clip it tomorrow and then we'll use it on the Sunday show near then. So we'll start with you on this one, Kev. Where will United be in the league and who will be the manager on Boxing Day?
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be the manager and Manchester United will be in 5th place. I would like to be a lot more positive, but this is my head.
It might be really positive saying Ole's the manager, you know,
yeah.
Take that. Ricky?
I think we're about 15th at the minute, aren't we?
I think so, yeah.
I'll go that Ole will still be in charge and will be 7th.
Beth?
I'm going similar, so it's not very exciting. But I do think Ole will still be in charge. Will we be playing the game of hand in that time? I don't think we will. I'd probably say 6th, 7th, 5th, around that point in the table. And we'll be doing better than we are now. But I do think he'll hang on to his job. I don't think he's going to.
I went 7th. You might as well go 6th.
I'll go 6th then. I'll go 6th.
A lot of people in the comments going with you. I'm going to say Pochettino will be coach and United will be in the relegation zone. No, I'm not getting people excited for Christmas. I think Ole will definitely be the coach. I can't see the fixtures. I don't see bad enough fixtures for us to. So I think we'll have a good run. I think we could be. The way this league is going, and I know Spurs have got a load of tough games, which means everyone who's playing Spurs have got tough games. I think on paper, our toughest game is City before Christmas. So I reckon, I think I'm not going to give it. I think you're all right. I think around 5th to 7th is probably right. And Ole will be the coach. Yeah, I agree with that.
One last thing I'm going to say is, do you reckon Liverpool are going to drop points now with their injuries, the amount of injuries they have? Like, it's a perfect chance for someone to try and get in, to try to close it upon them.
Don't get carried away, Beth. Don't get carried away.
Then again, I thought Leicester struggled with their injuries. I was going to say, I thought Leicester struggled with their injuries and they're top of the league.
Yeah, they got Liverpool on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Leicester could do it.
I think they've won every game away from home as well, haven't they? And I think it's at Anfield. I think there'll be a lot more. I said this afternoon. I think there'll be a lot more results like our Villa, Liverpool, because the teams that I think are going to do well now are going to be the teams that haven't had many international players, because international players have had to play 3 games over the last 2 weeks, so they've had no break, have they? So,
some of them needed a game. Don't forget.
Pardon?
Some of them needed a game. Don't forget.
Yeah. I mean, I think Cavani. I messaged about that, didn't I? Cavani
need a
game. Yeah. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for coming on. Thanks, Kev.
Thank you very much for having me as usual. Great to be back.
Worries. Ricky.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Enjoyed it, mate.
And Beth.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully we get the win on Saturday, 8 p.m. I think it is.
Yes, get that international break in the bin till March. Get some proper football back, and we'll be back on Sunday night to talk about it, which is great. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Smash a like on video. Thanks to all the guests and all the chats, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.